Okay, so here we are, and what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about cinemagraphs and how to generate a quick example of a cinemagraph. It's essentially where you have something in motion, something moving within the image, and everything else is static. So you're working with two files or two videos. One video is static, one video is in motion, and then you're using a mask to mask out the motion that you want to maintain or retain, and highlighting that. I'm going to try and talk through it as basically as I can. Some of you might have never used Premiere Pro, others might be absolute experts, and you can show me how to do it. First thing I want to do is bring in the footage into Premiere Pro. Obviously Premiere Pro is an Adobe program, so you'll just open it as normal via applications or via your Finder. So once I'm in Premiere Pro and you've opened the project, which again I can show you how to do, we need to import the footage. So File, Import, and my footage is pouringwater.mov. I'm hoping that you all have access to this footage as well, so you can edit it along with me. So what I'm going to do first of all is import, and the file has appeared here within my media browser. So I'm just going to double click and it appears here within the viewer, at least top left hand viewer. So what I want to do at this stage is using this blue bar here. You can see this is effectively a bar that moves the video, rewinds and fast forwards it accordingly. What I want to do is I want to find a clip where the jug of water is potentially as static as it can be and the water is flowing. So I don't want too much movement within the jar of water. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in and out points using this blue bar. So I might stop there. That's my out point. So press O on the keyboard and you can see that it's designated an out point. And then move your blue bar again. Now I want to track it back so that I can see when it starts to move, when the jar starts to move down. So I want it when it's pretty stable in that position. Let's say about there. So that's my in point. So that's now that section of footage. That's all I want. That section of footage there. In fact, it might be slightly too much. No, that's okay. I'm looking at this point here, and I want that point to be as static as possible, because it's going to be, by the end of this, the cinemagraph, all you're going to see is the water being poured in. The container will not increase in volume, will not get fuller, and the liquid here will not change. It's just going to be continuously pouring. So, I think that's okay. What I need to do now is to move this footage into the timeline. And a quick way of doing that is to control click on the grey of your thumbnail and go to New Sequence from Clip. So New Sequence from Clip. What it's done now, it's placed the footage within my timeline. You'll see this bar here on the base. That's to increase the viewing. So it's essentially to zoom in on your footage. You just need to see it at that point, really. That's fine. What we have here is we have V track for video and A track for audio. We don't need audio. So I'm going to control click on the footage in the timeline, go to unlink, and then click on the audio, which is now unlinked, which means I can access them separately and just delete it. I don't need audio. So that's my video so far. As you can see, the hands moving, the arms moving, the bottle's moving, whereas all I want is the water. So first thing I have to do here is to duplicate the footage. I need two sets of identical footage. So to do that, you hold down Alt-Alt and click, drag, drop, and you're just going to, like in Photoshop, when you're duplicating a shape, Alt, Alt, and then you have double footage on there. Okay, what I need to do now is control click on the V2, which is obviously that one here, so the top layer, control click, and then add, frame, hold. So in theory, when I press the space bar, which is pressing play, you can see that nothing is moving. So there's a hold. It's now just a still image. What we need to do is to locate loop, so we can loop the footage. If you can't see loop, click on the button editor here and locate loop, and then press OK, and it should appear here, and then you can just click it on and off. So you want to loop. So when you press play, when it reaches the end of your footage, it repeats, which it should do now. So the next thing I want to do is, by clicking on the top section, so the top layer here, is go over to my left hand side, and where you can see effect controls, click effect controls. What I want to do now on the second layer here is to apply a mask, so that I can mask out everything apart from the flowing water. So remember, the top layer is currently still, so if I close the eye of the top layer, that's the bottom layer, layer 1, and you can see that that is still in motion. So this is really straightforward. All you do is you move over to opacity and you click on, you've got 3 options: create ellipse mask, create 4-point polygon mask, or free draw Bezier pen tool mask. That's the mask I want to use. And now again, make sure you're on layer 2, and then click, 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 and you can see that you're drawing around the water because you want to mask out everything else, so that the only thing visible is effectively the water. Now, because you've got these anchor points, you can manipulate them. So manipulate the anchor points, because again, the only section you actually want to see is the water. This will take some doing. You want to do it properly, and you want to do it carefully. You can add additional anchor points. You can see if you go to the pen tool here, you can add anchor points on here to manipulate this even more, to have more control, basically. The final thing we need to do before we test it is to come back to the effects tool and press invert. Now, hopefully, when I press the play button, the only thing that's going to be moving in motion is the water. Now, as you can see, the only thing that's in motion is, in fact, the jug of water. So, let's come back to that over here. Let's go back. Find out what my mask path is doing. Okay, so now we are back. The only thing that's in motion is the water. Everything else is still. My hand is still, the container, the bottle is still, and the water is just continuing. So if it loops, it'll just continue. So this is, in essence, a cinemagraph. We got there in the end. That's good. You can continue to manipulate this just to make sure it's absolutely perfect and it's in position, the position where you want it to be, which obviously isn't there. I mean, that's pretty good, but you want it to look as realistic as possible. And you don't obviously want any movement in the container, and you want it to look just like it's flowing beautifully into that blue bucket and just repeats over and over again. Obviously, the project you're working on is word and image. This is an image. There's no reason why you can't add words to this image to start to explore the language and the relationship between word and image. Also, you can generate your own cinemagraphs. I recommend producing your own videos, maybe using your phone or the DSLRs have video equipment. But I suggest you start to think about, first of all, edit this footage just so you can start to understand what Cinemagraph is and how to use it via Premiere Pro. As you can see, it's really straightforward. but actually you can add text as well in Premiere Pro to animate within this image. But also think about how you want to use. Perhaps think about your word, think about your theme, and how you could apply that to a cinemagraph, possibly. There's lots more you can do, but this is the basics. This is the essence, like I've said, of a cinemagraph. One more thing, so mask feather, you can increase and decrease the feathering of that mask. You can also increase and decrease the mask expansion. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference on this one, but it is something it's definitely worth considering, because you may need to utilize that depending on what you work with in the future. Excellent. So that's it. It's time for you to explore, use the footage that I've given you, hopefully, that you'll have access to, and try and get to this stage where you have just the water continuously flowing, infinitely flowing. Finally, to save as a GIF. So File, Export, Media, File, Export, Media, and nothing happens. Let's try that again. File, Export, Media. Maybe it's just waking up or slow. Third time's a charm. Okay, thank you, iMac, for working. So File, Export, Media. So animated GIF. So format is animated GIF. That's what we're working with. Preset, again, animated GIF. What you need to do is output name. You need to click on here and then locate the location where you're placing your footage and title it something so you can remember what it's called. And then you are set to go. Everything else is absolutely fine for the time being. So then just export. And what you will get is, if I can locate the one I've been using. So let's just open this up. So this is my GIF, and I'm going to open it with Google Chrome, and there it is. So it's effectively an animated GIF in Google Chrome. Excellent. Okay, that is everything I wanted to show you at this stage. So let's just take it back to here. So have a go, use the footage, and obviously I will be around to support you, and think about animated GIFs and think about cinemagraphs. Wonderful.